I can always remember those men standing there in the cold, bitter cold. They would be standing there, waiting to get into the soup kitchen so they could get a bowl of soup.
When we would go to visit my grandmother, who lived in Morristown, outside Morristown, out near where the Lopers lived, we'd see a bunch of shacks made out of cardboard and corrugated tin out by the Newark airport. And they called that Hooverville because they blamed Hoover for the Depression. And men lived in those shacks.
Where was this, near the airport?
Yeah, it was in open fields out near the airport. It was right off the road. You could see all these different shacks. And, you know, they would have fires in 50-gallon drums and cook things over it. Because a lot of men left their families at that time. The wives and children went home to live with their parents, and the men were out on their own. What is that noise? Is that your chair making that noise? I was wondering if your chair was making that little squeaky noise every once in a while.
I don't know.
Maybe it's your shoes. Okay. Anything else you want to know?
That's
I
fine.
think you got enough for a report.
Thanks. Thanks, Nana. Thanks,
But you
Grandma.
should put back on the bottom of it, thank God for what's his name, Roosevelt. He was the president at that time.
That's the way you feel about it. A lot of people didn't feel that way.
What?
Only for him, I don't think we would have done.
He did a lot of things that weren't quite legal. He tried to pack the Supreme Court with his justices. Tried to increase the number of the... World War II stopped the Depression, I think, not Roosevelt.
Yeah, what did you feel about? How did you feel about Roosevelt?
At that time, I thought he was great. We used to put on plays in the school, dressed up in red, white, and blue, and do dances and sing about him. And we were the boys and girls of the NRA.
He had 12 years in the White House.
Almost. Oh no, he had more than 12, didn't he, Bobby?
Yep.
Yeah, he had almost 16.
Nope.
Nope. Huh? He was in his 4th term when he died.
Yeah, he was in the 4th term
3 months.
when he died.
Yeah, 3 months into the 4th term? Oh.
But
We
believe me, he certainly
12 years and 3 months.
He
Now you
certainly
look-
did.
Now when you look back at him, yeah.
No, I have more information than I had when I was 10 or 11 years old, but at that time he had the National Recovery Act, and it did pour, that was the NRA, it did pour a lot of money into federal projects. And we had something else called the WPA, the Works Projects Administration, and they built one of the schools in Westfield, Wilson School.
I can remember.
Built by the WPA.
I can remember all of that speech that he had, and I used to be able to remember that. I mean, when he declared war. About, what did we do? Something about infantry.
A day that will live in infamy.
Yeah.
And they bombed Pearl Harbor.
He was so bitter against the Germans.
Japanese. Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
That was the Second World War.
Now we're doing World War I now. I will do World War II.
You are doing well, and I'm surprised because when I was working, few people
And the First
knew
World
anything
War.
about World War
The
I.
First World War, that was in 1914, wasn't it?
We didn't get in until 17.
We didn't get in until 18. Yeah, I remember my brother was in the army. We weren't in the war, but he was in the army and he was fighting all through from
Uncle
19...
Jesse.
Uncle Jesse.
Yes, he was in the horse, what do you call those, horse battalions? You know, the horses pulled the guns, they didn't have trucks to pull the guns, and he was in charge of the horses.
He took care of the horses, whatever he was. But he was he was never a captain.
No,
Yeah.
he was enlisted.
Huh?
He was enlisted. He was enlisted.
Yeah, but then he would get made the first what is the first?
Corporal?
The corporal. And he'd only be a corporal for maybe 6 months, and then he'd get put down because he'd be fighting with somebody.
Yeah, he was a great
He's
fighter.
been made a corporal and how many times, and he never went any higher than a corporal because he was always fighting somebody.
He was in a shell hole, in the trenches rather, with a bunch of his friends when a shell hit right in the middle, exploded, killed everybody but him.
Gee.
And he got the shrapnel in his back and everything. He didn't go to the first aid station or anything, he just continued fighting. And years later, when he had flu once, I went over and took care of him, gave him a bath, and rubbed his back, and he had shrapnel all up his back, right under the skin, little blue pieces of it.
All under the skin.
Yeah, all lumps. And he never...
They never have it taken out.
He was in the Mexican War too, Spanish-American War too.
Oh, he had great big scars where he had a fight with the Mexicans.
Mexicans, that's what he was.
The Mexicans before, when he was fighting down in Mexico. And he was on a bridge and he was fighting hand to hand with one of the Mexicans. And the back of his legs was all from the Mexican had a knife, and the back of his legs was all scarred where the Mexican was digging the knife into him.
Yeah, he had
And
an
I said to him, "What did you do to the Mexican?" He says, "What do you think?" And he didn't say any more. What do you think?
He didn't talk much about it. You don't know where to put food? Oh. Even on my birthday, I gotta put food away.
You got food out there?
Yeah, he's